Think back to the last time someone gave you feedback. Did it help you grow or did it just sting? Most of us had both kinds. And the difference usually isn't whether the feedback was positive or negative. It's how, when and where it was delivered. In this video, I'll walk you through a way to give feedback that actually lands. Whether you're talking to a peer, your manager, or someone you lead. Now, why is this important? Well, there are 3 reasons. First, feedback is how teams learn. In the best workplaces, people share what's working and what isn't, early and often. It's how problems get fixed before they become crises, and how good practices spread. Second, it builds trust. And this may sound counterintuitive, but when you give your honest feedback, people know exactly where they stand with you. And that's the foundation of any strong working relationship. And third, it helps you manage your emotions. When you swallow frustration week after week, those frustrations may turn into resentment. Naming things clearly, kindly, and early keeps you emotionally balanced. One thing worth pausing on before we get into the how. Feedback can have different goals. Appreciation is I see you. What you mean and what you did mattered. The goal here is motivation and connection. Second, there's coaching. Here's how you could grow, how you could improve. The goal there is improvement. And finally, there's evaluation. Here's where you stand. The goal there is alignment with some standards, a role, a target, a peer group. These are 3 very distinct goals. And here's the thing. Most feedback conversations go sideways for one reason. The giver and the receiver want different things. Picture this. A teammate finishes a tough project and says, "Phew, that was brutal." She's looking for appreciation at that point in time. You may jump in with coaching, saying something like, "Yeah, next time we should start the stakeholder mapping earlier." Technically, this is helpful, but completely misses the point of what she needs at that moment in time. Or the reverse. Someone asks, "How am I doing?" They're looking for evaluation. Instead, you may give them warm appreciation. They'll walk away still wondering where they stand. So before you open your mouth to give feedback, ask yourself, what goal do I have? What kind of feedback am I giving? Or even better, ask the person you're giving the feedback to about what they need at that point in time. Are they looking for a pat on the back, coaching, or evaluation? Now, on to the structure. 2 quick basics first. When do you give feedback? Well, as soon as you reasonably can, while it's still fresh for both of you. Where do you give the feedback? If it's coaching or evaluation, somewhere private. Now there are 4 parts to giving good feedback. Intent, situation, behavior, and impact. Let's start with intent. What do you think they were trying to do? Start there. This step is doing 2 things at once. For the person receiving feedback, naming a probable good intent lowers their defenses, before you even describe the situation or a potential issue. But it's also doing something for you while you're giving the feedback. Without it, you may walk into a conversation with an unconscious story already written. They're lazy. They don't care. They're being difficult. And your tone follows that conversation whether you mean it or not. Asking or stating a good intent triggers your own empathy. It softens your delivery before the other person has said a word. Second, situation. When and where did this happen? Be specific. Third, behavior. What did you actually observe? Not what you concluded about the person, but what you saw and what you heard. And finally, what was the impact? What was the effect on you, on the work, and on the team? And there's one small word that ties this all together. And so, you wanted X, intent, so you did Y, observable behavior, and the effect was Z, impact. That little phrase is doing a lot of work. It says, I understand why you did what you did. I am not questioning your character. I'm just showing you what you intended and what actually happened didn't quite line up. That's a much harder conversation to argue with. And then, and most people skip this part, you stop talking. You let it land. The silence is where the other person actually thinks, where they connect their own intent to their own behavior, to their own impacts. Don't rush to fill that silence. Don't rush to fill the void. Let me show you with two examples. The first example. A colleague keeps arriving late to a meeting. The unhelpful version to giving feedback might be something like, you're always late. It's really inconsiderate. A more helpful version, starting with intent, with good intent, could be something like this. I think you're juggling a lot, and you're trying to make every meeting count. So in yesterday's 9 a.m. stand-up, you joined about 15 minutes in. The effect was that we already covered the project updates and had to recap for you. As a result, the meeting ran over. And then you wait. Do you see the difference? Specific situation, observable behavior, concrete impact. And crucially, you've named what they were probably trying to do from a positive intent, so they don't have to defend themselves before they can hear you. A second example, an off-colored interruption. Let's take a tougher one, and this is closer to setting an expectation. Someone interrupts a colleague with a comment that lands badly in a client meeting. The unhelpful version, or perhaps more setting a boundary, is something like, you were really inappropriate in there. A more constructive version, starting with positive intent, is something like, I think you were trying to lighten the mood. And so when Sarah suggests a new timeline this morning, you cut in with a joke, saying, we'll see if she can actually deliver this time. And the effect was that she didn't speak up again for the rest of the call. And then you wait. It's still direct, but now it's something they can actually work on. And there's a clear gap between what they intended and what happened. And remember, the same structure works for praise too, although sometimes you may leave the intent there because it's fairly obvious. So for instance, in yesterday's all hands, when you redirected the conversation back to the customer impact, 3 other people built on what you said, and the whole tone of the meeting shifted. I wanted you to know that it landed, it had its effect. Note that specific praise is the fastest way to make the good stuff repeatable. A few traps to watch out for. Being judgmental. You don't care about this team is a verdict. When you skipped the retro, I felt like the team's input mattered less to you stays close to what you observed and felt. Being too general. You're great with clients, feels nice, but teaches nothing. The way you reframed the budget concern in Tuesday's call diffused the tension. That is something you can repeat. Giving tips too early. It's tempting to jump in with, what you should do is, hold back. Let them sit with the impact first. Often, they'll arrive at the lesson themselves and will stick better. They may even come up with a better suggestion than your own. Being too emotional. Some feeling is good. It shows that you care. But if you're shaking, if you're angry, wait. Avoiding giving feedback because it's uncomfortable. Yes, it is uncomfortable. Do it anyway. Silent resentment is worse for everyone. Avoiding it to spare their feelings. This one is subtler. Sometimes we hold back not because we're uncomfortable, but because we don't want the other person to be uncomfortable. So we soften the message until it becomes meaningless, or we skip it entirely, telling ourselves that we're being kind. We're not. Unclear feedback isn't kindness. It just postpones the conversation that needs to be had. Skipping the intent step. Especially when you're setting an expectation, the temptation is to lead with the behavior, because that's what you're upset about. Don't. Starting with intent isn't going soft. It's what keeps you from delivering a story you've already written in your head. And it's what makes the rest of the story resonate. Once giving this kind of feedback feels natural, 2 moves will make your feedback even sharper. 1. Ask a question. After the impact, instead of waiting for them to respond, ask something open. How did it feel from your side? You learned something? They reflect. The conversation becomes a 2-way street. Or, how can I help you with this? Put it together. I think you were trying to lighten the mood. And so, when Sarah suggested the new timeline this morning, you cut in to joke, we'll see if she can actually deliver it this time. And the effect was that she didn't speak up again for the rest of the call. How did you read it? Or how did you experience it? And then you wait. You hold the silence. The second move is to ask for feedback yourself. And this is the big one. The strongest feedback cultures are 2-way. If you want others to be honest with you, you should go first. Ask something specific, like what's one thing that I could do or stop doing that would make working with me easier. Then resist every urge to defend, explain, or fill the silence. Just listen. The people who give the best feedback are almost always also the ones who actively ask for it. One last piece. Feedback isn't a one-shot. Before the conversation ends, agree on what's next. Sometimes that's let's check in next week or next month. Sometimes it's like, I'd love to hear how the next client call goes. Sometimes it's just, thanks for hearing me out. Offer support if they want. Don't force it. And actually follow up a week or a month later. Notice the change. Name it. Appreciate it. Feedback that's never revisited fades. Feedback that gets followed up upon changes how people work. That's it. Before any conversation, ask yourself, which kind of feedback am I giving? Appreciation, coaching or evaluation? Am I offering a gift or am I setting a standard? Then keep it specific. Intent, situation, behavior, and impact. Connected with and so. Then shut up and let the silence work for you. It won't always feel comfortable, but this is one of the most valuable skills you can build for you and for your team. Now, go have one of those conversations this week.